Okay, I guess at that signal, it's go time. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Today is the day 2 of AI cybersecurity for supply chain. If you missed it, we did a webinar yesterday on the individual side. Our speakers, both Kevin, Ryan, were amazing. So I would say, if you haven't seen that, definitely go check it out. It's on our website. Or if you don't want to have the link, please let us know and we will send you that link. So today's webinar will help you transform an organization with artificial intelligence and improve cybersecurity. So anticipate that you will learn everything, not just on the individual side, but on the corporate side. Again, as if you missed it, please reach out to us. We will definitely send it on the individual side. Today's session, I'm assuming, will just be as engaged. We had so many questions yesterday. It was awesome that we had so much involvement with our viewers. So thank you and keep that up. We are recording, and if you do have questions or comments, please put them in the Q&A. It's kind of at the bottom, or the chat function, and Kyle or Ellis will happily answer those during and after the session. So what is today? Well, we're going to be separating AI hype from the practical and potential, uncovering a number of useful tools that can be leveraged by your team now. Learn how to broadly deploy AI for productivity while your organization prepares for long-term benefits of custom AI. Discover the Copilot Era and how you can benefit from developing a proprietary supply chain specific AI solution. Before I introduce our amazing speakers, I'm just going to do the landing acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous people of the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and improving our own understanding of the local Indigenous people and their cultures. From coast to coast, we acknowledge our ancestral and unceded territory for all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nation people that we call home. Okay, let's introduce our amazing speakers. First off, we'll have Ryan. He's manager of the AI and Modern Works. For the most of his life, Ryan has been enthusiastic about technology, but never thought he'd have a career from which he loves computers. Ryan is a recognized advocate for the Microsoft Cloud, using the passion for helping organizations digitally transform. Ryan has spent the last 4 years at Clear Concepts, leading a modern workplace practice that has assisted hundreds of organizations realize the full potential of Microsoft 365 and more recently, all the AI tools. The other speaker today is Nino. Nino is one of Western Canada's foremost cybersecurity professionals. He holds multiple cybersecurity certificates, and the list is endless, from CISSP, CYSA+. Maybe Nino, you can go over those, because just like supply chain, there's so many acronyms that I'm like just rolling off those, but sounds like you come with a lot of letters after your name, so that's good and reaffirms your expert at cybersecurity. Nino takes great pride in helping organizations of all sizes across the industries to champion the zero trust security framework, protecting their networks, devices, users, and important company data. And then finally, we have Kyle. He did our presentation yesterday on the individual side. He'll be handling the Q&A. He has an extensive background in data dashboarding, marketing research, data science, and AI. He's helped many organizations across multiple industries discover the power of data for 10 years. Kyle is also a strong advocate of database decision-making to uncover actionable insights and elevate the organizational effectiveness and adoption of AI tools. Last but not least, there's Katie. She's been with Clear Concepts for over 2 years as the corporate consultant. So she's your go-to woman. So if you have additional questions or want some more information with Clear Concepts, she'd be your point of contact. So please reach out to Katie and she will direct you to the right people. Finally, there's Ellis, outreach manager. She will also be helping to facilitate the questions, as I assume there will be a lot of engagement. All right, Ryan, you want to take it away?
All right, let's get to it. Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you so much, Ellis. Welcome everybody. Thank you for taking some time. Just a quick look at today's speakers. Again, myself and Nino. Hey, the slide will also serve as sort of the agenda as I'll take us through AI on some conversations about the what, the why, and the how to. And then we'll switch gears about halfway through, and Nino will take us through basically an introduction to zero trust and the zero trust cybersecurity model. So if you didn't join us yesterday, just some quick background on Clear Concepts. If that's not a name that you've heard before, we are an all-inclusive managed IT support provider here in Winnipeg. Headquarters is downtown. The team is always growing. I think we're a little bit closer to 60 now, but that's professionals across all sorts of technical, sales, and operations departments. We are a Microsoft solution partner with a really heavy focus on Microsoft 365 and our award-winning approach to adoption. And more recently, something that we're quite proud of is our experience with AI and having the fortune to been playing with that technology for the last few years. And of course, we do serve clients not only here in Winnipeg and in Manitoba, but right across North America. So on the AI side, again, sort of my mini agenda, if you will, let's talk about the hype. Let's talk about why AI is so important. Why is it dominating the news cycles today? We'll talk about the Copilot era and just what that means. And then I have some tips and tricks, if you will, for AI adoption success. So this will feel a little bit different if you did join in yesterday. Again, that session was more so tailored to individuals, some good tips and again, practice that you can do on your own. Today, we're talking about AI from the corporate perspective. So if you are here on your own, if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, a director, a manager of a team, all the way up to executives in an organization, you should get some value from the content today. So this is Zoom, so I'm not exactly sure if we have the feature. I have to admit I do this on Teams a little bit more, but show of virtual hands, even if we can't see you, your camera's not on. Feel free to throw up your hand if you've been surprised by the rise of AI. Certainly, it's dominated the news cycles over the last, let's call it 6 to 8 months. It just seems to be everywhere. And that hype really seems to be everywhere as well. So what I sort of want to do is just take a look at some, let's call them outrageous headlines. Outrageously positive or outrageously negative. It's interesting to take a look at these and again, just sort of reset or rebalance our expectations for generative AI and productivity. So the first one here being, if you have one of these 10 jobs, AI has the skills to replace you. And again, this is hype, this is FUD. Let's just toss that one to the side. Can AI outsmart humans? Is ChatGPT the beginning of our doomsday? Sounds pretty wicked. Sounds a little fire and brimstone. Again, that's just a sensational headline that we can probably get by without. This AI era has spawned all sorts of interesting experts in all sorts of corners of the globe, including Ozzy Osbourne's son, Jack. He is now apparently an AI expert, calling AI a bit of Pandora's box. Again, a rather sensational, let's call it clickbaity headline we can probably do without. And again, taking a break from negative headlines, let's look at overly positive hype. Here's one: generative AI could transform work, boost productivity, and democratize innovation. That's a lot of techno jargon, certainly things that we talk about all day here. But again, we can step that back a little bit and say, yeah, it's probably going to change us, but is it that sensational? And for us, again, being a Microsoft partner, drinking from that fire hose each and every day, a headline like the CEO of Microsoft saying copilots and AI assistants will be as significant as the PC. Again, that's a pretty haughty and a pretty heavy headline, again, which we can take a little pause and reflect and say, this has all got a lot of promise, but there's also a lot of hype going on here. And why I like to break the hype is to sort of set up a few thoughts around why AI is actually so important, why we should disregard those overly impressive headlines and instead focus on the value of AI. And it really comes down to time. It's really all about time. When I do this, when I have this conversation in person, again, virtual show of hands, who's busier than they've ever been? Who feels like they're carrying a much larger workload than they were a year or 2 or 3 ago? We also know that labor shortages, upskilling, onboarding new employees, these are all challenges. They're all activities that take a lot of time and a lot of money to do well. We also have competitive pressures like getting our products and service to market and scaling either our products and services to market as well. Obviously, this being a supply chain audience, I'm sure you understand that better than most. Supply chain pressures, competitive pressures, all of that change that's going on in the supply chain realm is all about time. So there's actually a great study. Microsoft has had, as you may or may not know, some generative AI tools out in the market for some time now. One of those sort of the big marquee products is Microsoft 365 Copilot. More on that later. But what I want to come through it as again, just putting some numbers and sort of quantifying the results. So this product's been out in the market for a few months now, and Microsoft has actually started to survey the users of this product. 68% said that copilots and AI, generative AI tools, improve the quality of their work. And about 30% made these users about 30% faster at tasks like searching, writing, and summarizing. So again, makes us get things done more efficiently. Users also reported that they were able to recover from meetings that they missed, didn't fully participate in, maybe didn't take the best notes, 4 times faster meeting recovery using AI tools. And again, I got some examples of that coming up shortly. And this is actually my favorite stat of the lot here is over 3/4 of people that get a Copilot or get to use some of this software day to day don't want to give it up. Which is really, really fascinating. They're seeing enough value. They are incorporating it into their day-to-day, enough so that they don't want to give it up. So let's flip the script and actually talk about some dollars and some cents. Let's do what we do and try to find return on investment in some of these products. So again, that example, Microsoft 365 Copilot, the corporate subscription price for that is about $475 per user per year. Let's assume that the average information worker across finance, accounting, office, or insurance types of roles are earning around $80,000 to $84,000 annually. And again, going back to that previous slide, even if we don't make them 30% more efficient, even when we just make them 9.6, just a third of a third, if you will, if we make them 9.6% more efficient, that's $8,000, almost $8,200 of savings in terms of productivity. And so when you go back and compare it to the cost of that license for a product like Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can see and get a sense of just how high the return on investment is for some of these AI products. So again, it's about time, but it's also about justifying that return on investment. And we're seeing early results is very, very high return on investment. So again, when we're having these conversations with business leaders, with managers, directors in the C-suite as well, we're bringing along a few things for the journey. Number one being an AI strategy, and feel free to write this down. Feel free to come back to this later. This is our gift to the world here. And that strategy should really be about abundance, not about reduction. We want to use AI to augment humans and augment our teams, ensuring really that nobody's job is at risk. We just want to make those jobs easier and far more productive. We're not about to lay off entire teams and entire departments because AI has made somebody redundant, okay? AI and copilots have the opportunity to become part of your team. In the same way you might peek your head around an office door or over a cubicle wall to ask a question, these AI tools are sort of becoming that personable and teammate that can join in a small team or organization-wide. And an important thing to keep in mind as well is this is not just a one and done. This is not just a lift and shift or a migration of sorts into the cloud. AI is going to be a long-term evolution, and it's going to take your business some long-term and ongoing investments into the future as well. Okay, what we are recommending, again, even though AI has been around for many, many years, incredibly white hot for the last, let's call it 8 months or so, we're still in early days. It's still the first few hours of the first few days of this AI boom. And really what we're encouraging is a gradual implementation of AI. We don't need to boil the ocean. What we can do, and in this moment, the products that are the best out there in the market are around productivity and end user productivity, content creation and collaboration. So let's deploy these tools for productivity first. The good news behind that thought is that it'll actually buy us some time to clean up your data estate and again, look at custom AI experience, custom copilots for your organization. So productivity first, and some of the more advanced machine learning, some of the science fiction sounding capabilities within AI that can come later after we deploy for productivity first. And throughout this entire process, again, another thing to keep with us in the back of our minds on this journey is to prioritize data privacy and data security. So any good AI vendor will make that a priority throughout. So what we do, and I hope this visual serves as a good reminder or sort of a continuum of AI growth in an organization. I've mapped on some products here, primarily Microsoft products. We'll give a few examples in just a few minutes. But what your aim should be or what your plan can be is to move from free or low-cost solutions like Microsoft Copilot and Designer on the left of the slide, through to products like Teams Premium that comes with a little bit of a cost, but does AI meeting recap, through to Microsoft 365 Copilot, all the way up to sort of either more bespoke or custom AI and machine learning solutions for your business. And again, as you go from left to right, the cost, complexity of these types of projects and products will increase. But as you can see as well, as you go from left to right, you benefit individuals through to larger teams, through to either your whole organization or your customers, your partners, your vendors, your patients, your students, whomever your organization serves. So again, a good roadmap for the types of products you'll want to implement over time. And I came up with this visual actually last week as far as where you should deploy these AI products. Again, the free ones, hey, let's go as wide and as fast as we can. But a lot of these products come with a subscription cost, and they're not necessarily cheap by any means. So what I advocate is building a heat map of sorts. Think about your organization and think about those hotspots, the red hotspots where we'll see that return on investment. And those can be teams carrying a large salary, teams carrying a large workload that are sort of tapped and maxed, if you will, and those areas within your organization that are doing searching, writing, and summarizing, the tasks that we know we can deploy AI to improve right away. So again, the C-suite, HR, IT, information services, down in ops and finance, through to sales and marketing. These are just a few hypothetical examples. But in your mind or on the back of a napkin, you can see, again, those hotspots where it's going to make sense to deploy AI tools sooner than later. So we're calling this the Copilot Era, certainly borrowing some of that from Microsoft's branding. The reason we're calling it the Copilot Era is think of spell check, right? 15 or 20 years ago, spell check was this sort of dedicated app or this dedicated feature. But now you use spell check, it's basically built into everything. It's just there. You kind of count on its ubiquity nowadays. We're likening AI and copilots as these, sort of fixed apps or these fixed features. They're just going to be put into everything, and they're just going to be baked into all of the different apps and services and operating systems and mobile platforms that we use day to day. So some examples of these copilots and really highlighting, again, what a copilot can be. Yesterday, Kyle took us through some examples of Microsoft Copilot, right? It's free. If you use Microsoft 365, you can sign in with your work account, protect your conversations with the large language model, but it is an AI-powered conversational bot for business use, powered by the same technology that makes ChatGPT work. You can get to this by logging into copilot.microsoft.com. You can also use it in the sidebar if you use the Microsoft Edge browser. But again, if you want to see some more specific use cases, the session from yesterday did a great job of covering those. Again, this is what it's going to look like, or this is what you'll see, whether you're on mobile phone, if you're on Safari, Chrome, Edge, all of the different browsers. If you log in, you don't necessarily have to use Microsoft products to get to Copilot. But you can see it does a whole bunch of different tasks for us, almost like an AI Swiss Army knife, reading, comparing, writing jokes, or writing code, or helping you analyze and create graphics as well. And here's a little example. I'll just run a video clip here where we may want to ask for summary of information, asking for retail trends in the, technology trends across the retail sector. And note here that you can set the tone, you can set a format and a length as well. And again, this is generative AI at its finest. It's going to scour the internet and the information it has available and generate something new for us. In this case, a bulleted or point form list of some retail trends. The great thing about Microsoft Copilot, again, low cost. You can get this out to users very, very quickly and very, very efficiently. And it does a lot of citing sources rather. And again, can be a very, very functional tool for anybody that needs to research and summarize. Another good example of a very, very popular tool right now is AI meeting recaps. This is available in a product called Microsoft Teams Premium. It's an additive license, basically, if you're licensed for Microsoft Teams. And Teams Premium does a couple of things. The first and my favorite feature is AI notes. Any meetings that you record and transcribe, it will provide an AI summary about 10 to 15 minutes after the meeting is done. These notes are superb. The quality of the notes, the quality of the summarization is top-notch. And you see down below here, it even listens as people's names are mentioned, as tasks are mentioned, or things are assigned to individual collaborators. It's going to pick up on those and make a to-do list for everything, as well as sorting the video or breaking it up into topics and chapters. If you've seen YouTube videos with chapter markers, it does the same thing here. Again, all powered under the hood by AI. And then aspirationally, again, sort of in the middle of that continuum of products was Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'm just going to run a little video here. Hopefully the sound plays as well, and just to show you what you can do with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And again, that's a paid product.
Whoa. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop. Stand still, that's the motto, yeah. Brand new bands for the auto, oh. Foot to the ground, full throttle. Big energy for the night like lotto. Y'all talk lots, never this quiet. Life like a Seinfeld plot. Ball full of songs, all of them bombs. Something like a minefield guy, boom. Get it, tickets running out quick. Bet it, never get it out big. Said it, never had to shout it. They said I couldn't ever do it, okay, how's it? Fit a week worth of work in a minute. Machine well oiled, you know how I stay efficient. To-do list written, I do this different. Hold up, wait a minute, I ain't finished. Okay. Look, flows the same now. Paved the way, the snakes and fakes are chased out. Back to back to back, I changed the pace now. Had to stack the cash until the bank's out. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop.
All right, so that is Microsoft 365 Copilot. Again, that's around that $475 per user per year, annual commitment. But you can see it is a Copilot or a number of Copilots that work inside all of the Office applications that we use: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Teams, and more. They're adding more all the time. But probably the coolest thing about Microsoft 365 Copilot is it's also grounded in graph data. And what does that mean? Well, it knows your chats, it knows your emails, it knows your org structure, it knows the files and documents, SharePoint sites that you have access to, and it can use that again in the generative AI fashion to give you answers, summarize things, and help you create new content. So hopefully we've sort of whetted your appetite or wetted the whistle a little bit when it comes to some potential AI products. Again, Copilot being free, Teams Premium is around, I think it's $11 to $15, depending if you're academic, nonprofit, or corporate customer, and Microsoft 365 Copilot being something rather a little bit more expensive, but a little bit more aspirational. So let's talk about adoption success within your organization. How do you get these tools in the hands of your users? Well, we've got 4 steps. I really love building IKEA furniture. That's why everything I talk about has step 1, 2, 3, 4. And really, it's about readiness with the goal of achieving custom copilots for your organization. So we talk about organizational readiness, user readiness, getting your data ready for these tools, and then deploying custom copilots. So when it comes to org readiness, this really is sort of an IT assessment type of engagement. There's a number of reports that can be generated on your licensing, any blockers, which users make the most sense for a product like Microsoft 365 Copilot. This will give us the opportunity to either optimize things or again, just provide a baseline of the users that make the most sense to use this product. Okay. After we deal with your org, your IT assets, we're really then going to start to talk about user readiness. And there's really 2 steps here. The first being basically the content that Kyle covered yesterday around prompt engineering. We liken that to going to the gym to build muscle for AI. And then stepping that up into product-specific training, whether the product is going to be Microsoft Copilot, the free edition, whether it's going to be a product like Teams Premium for AI meeting recap, or if it's going to be Microsoft 365 Copilot. You want to wrap that around with some training for your end users. Don't just drop it into their laps. And again, Copilot 101, prompt engineering, this is going to be the steepest learning curve, we believe, for mere mortals using AI and generative AI for the first time. We know that Copilot, or rather prompt engineering, is the best way to improve user experience with these new tools. Essentially, what we're training our users here to do is ask better questions so that they get better results out of these AI tools. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. And again, yesterday, Kyle took us through sort of our 7 top tips or principles of prompt engineering, being specific and descriptive, doubling down, the order of your prompt matters, giving the model an out to prevent hallucination or prevent errors. Chain of thought prompting is very, very important, again, to get that answer that you want, specifying a format, a tone, and providing the AI with examples, again, just to help you get a little bit closer to what you want. And product-specific enablement and training, again, building on Prompt Engineering 101, when to use Microsoft 365 Copilot, where to use it. Do you want to use it in chat? Do you want to use it inside all of those great Office applications? Giving practical demonstrations, and sort of coming soon, what we're looking forward to is Microsoft's actually allowing app developers to build plugins. So you may be able to use Copilot to play a Spotify playlist or something as an end user. That's pretty cool, but also tap into your line of business applications, maybe your ERP, your marketing, your accounting package, or maybe a specific supply chain application as well. Data readiness, again, a very, very important step. Nino's going to touch on some of the zero trust stuff in just a couple of minutes. But when it comes to getting your data estate ready for the Copilot era and using products like Microsoft 365 Copilot, again, first step is to centralize that data, get it into Microsoft 365, SharePoint and OneDrive being the primary storage sources there, so that we can secure this data. We need to prevent oversharing. We need to do some work around Microsoft 365 groups and permissions, and basically add governance to your information architecture. I know governance can kind of sound like a dirty word sometimes. And then sort of the last step here around data readiness is tagging, setting up and enforcing data loss prevention policies, which Nino will cover, and truly embracing and adopting the zero trust cybersecurity model is now in the Copilot era more important than it has ever been. So more on that in just a few minutes. Because here, I just want to sort of wrap up my segment with talking about custom copilots. Again, being that pinnacle of this AI journey in the next 2 to 3 years, where you work with a partner to build your own, your organization's own custom copilot, whether that bolts into products that are ready-made, that's your own Windows, web, mobile application, something that works inside of Teams or Slack, for example. But these applications exist to answer questions, trigger automation, and leverage all of the data that's most important to your organization. Again, whether it's financial data, something in your ERP or in a manufacturing process, CRM, where all of your sales and marketing data is, for example. Custom copilots, again, can work with that kind of data. And our aim or our goal when we are talking with customers about custom copilots is to save, let's say 5 to 10, being a little bit generous there, 5 to 10 minutes per user per interaction. So every time they use a copilot to ask a question, get an answer, generate something, summarize something using internal data, that should be our goal, is to save them 5 to 10 minutes per interaction. Again, if you've deployed a custom copilot org-wide, and you have a number of people saving 5 to 10 minutes a day, many times a day, again, you can start to suss out that return on investment with some of these larger AI projects. And again, if that sounds a little bit exotic, again, keep in mind that is a few steps into the AI journey, and you can always count on a partner like Clear Concepts to help with custom copilot development. And with that, I'm going to disappear, hand the mic over to Nino to take us through some fundamentals of zero trust. And I will be back a little later on for any questions.
Thanks, Ryan. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name's Nino. I'm the Senior Cybersecurity Consultant for Clear Concepts. I'll be taking over the cybersecurity portion of our presentation for today. And our topic will be zero trust. Zero trust might sound negative or counterproductive, but in terms of technology or in the digital realm, trust is very dangerous because having too much trust can accidentally expose your data or let someone access information that they shouldn't have to. And according to Microsoft, zero trust has guiding principles to guide organizations into adopting the security strategy. And again, zero trust is not a product, it's not a technology, it's a strategy designed to align business needs with their security goals. So the first guiding principle is called verify explicitly. So when we say verify explicitly, we're not just going to rely on passwords alone, because threat actors are always going after accounts in order to gain access to a network. They steal accounts through phishing emails or through compromised service websites. So once that password is stolen, they can't log in as that person using their account. So with zero trust, it's important to verify every attempt to access a resource in the network. So it's not enough that we just ask for passwords alone. There are things that we need to add, policies like multi-factor authentication, in order to validate every request, regardless of its origin or destination. And our second guiding principle is called use least privilege access. So I guess this is a standard security practice, but it's an important part of zero trust because we don't want our employees to have access to the most sensitive data of the company. We want only certain group of people who have access to it. We want to segment and we want to separate which areas which they should have access to. And practicing the rule of least privilege ensures that only the designated people or employees will have access to the corporate data that they should have. And this leads to reducing the risk of unauthorized access. And it also ensures that even if an employee's credentials get compromised, the data that is sensitive or the data that they don't have access to will be separate and will be in its own container. So practicing the rule of least privilege also prevents unwanted changes in the network because regular user accounts shouldn't have administrator permissions, and they should just only have the permissions that they need to perform their day-to-day tasks. And the third guiding principle is assume breach. This one sounds complicated because why would you assume that you're already breached? Isn't that weird? But by assuming that the threats are already present in your network, security teams are encouraged to always be ready to respond to threats. It is a proactive approach to cybersecurity. And assuming breach, it's also a mindset. Think of it like you're hiking in backcountry and then you're always watching your back, thinking that the bear might just suddenly attack. It makes you more responsive and more careful. So assume breach is a mindset that helps organizations always be ready and always be prepared in case an incident happens or occurs inside the network. It's also a way of containing an incident as soon as possible, because we know the earlier we contain a threat, the better our chances to prevent the threat actors from accessing our sensitive data. So Brian, move to the next slide, please. Okay, so let's start with protecting our identities with zero trust. So the most common policy we deploy or we know is the use of multi-factor authentication. And with Microsoft, there are three ways to deploy multi-factor authentication or MFA. The first one will be through conditional access policy, which I think is the most effective and the most secure way of pushing for MFA. Because with conditional access, it's more flexible. It can use certain criteria or signals. Like when we say signals, it can be based on the location, based on the device type, or based on the group of the person or the user. And it also has support for risk-based logins. So when we say risk-based logins, it can be access from an infrequent country or an impossible travel. So conditional access can detect and prevent logins if it feels that it's unusual or it's an irregular login pattern from the user. The only thing to consider is that this requires an additional license to a tenant. So let's go on with the examples for conditional access. Let's say we want to set up a certain group of users that they can only log in from the corporate office. We can create a conditional access to only allow them to log in from your office network and deny everywhere else, including their home address or like any other address. If we want to be more like inclusive, we can just allow logins within Canada and block US or Europe. Just in case, this is our way of reducing the attack surface for these accounts or just to comply with company policies as well. And conditional access can also be used to prevent access from mobile devices. Let's say we want to prevent some employees from accessing their emails from their phones or from mobile phones that's not corporate owned, or in general, if we just don't want them to access their Microsoft accounts from mobile phones, then we can use conditional access for that. And another example is like what I mentioned earlier, that you can create a policy to block access if Microsoft thinks that it's like an impossible travel for the account. So when we say impossible travel, let's say the person is logged into Winnipeg right now, but within a few minutes, there's a login from the US. Conditional access can prevent that login from the US or require multi-factor authentication. So that one requires an additional license on top of the conditional access license. So, but that one is pretty good to have. So another thing that you can do with conditional access is also push for a policy that users can only log in from compliant devices. So when we say compliant devices, these can be devices that are just corporate owned, devices that has antivirus protection, devices that receive Windows, the latest Windows updates. So conditional access can create a policy for that. So this is the way of tightening up the security of the entire organization by only requiring access coming from trusted devices. And another example is that we can use it to require MFA for our guests or external users, because with Microsoft, if you send an invite to access like a SharePoint link, a OneDrive link, they essentially become a guest in your tenant. So with conditional access, you can require those visitors or guests to comply with your MFA requirements, just to make sure that you're actually sharing it to the actual person that you intended to. And last example I have here is that enable terms of use. This one is interesting. So this is like a PDF file that you can upload. And if someone is logging into their Microsoft accounts for the first time, they have to expand that document and they have to accept before they can access their Microsoft accounts. So if they decline, they won't be able to continue until they accept the terms of use. I think this is good just to show the company policies, the acceptable use policies for your emails, for their accounts. So conditional access can be used to push for these policies, especially for newly onboarded users. So the second example we have for deploying multi-factor is the per user option. This is the built-in option to push for MFA. It's free. It doesn't include, it doesn't require an additional license to use, but since it's pretty straightforward. There's not much you can do, and it needs to be done manually for each account, meaning an administrator will have to go and toggle the enable or enforce button for each account to enable MFA. So it's good because you don't need to add a license. At the same time, it takes a lot of work, and sometimes if an account is like just a newly created account gets forgotten, then MFA will be turned off for that. So you have to make sure that every new account will be enabled manually. Unlike with conditional access, it's like a blanket policy for the entire organization that makes sure that every account, regardless of its age or when was it created, will be included with your MFA policy. And the last option would be security defaults. This is Microsoft's way of enabling MFA for newly created tenants. So by default, if you created a new Microsoft tenant for your company or your organization, then you will have security defaults. It's free, doesn't include a license or doesn't need a license to work. But at the same time, you cannot customize it. It's an all or nothing approach. Like either you enable security defaults or not. And if you don't enable security defaults, MFA won't work. And even if you enable security defaults, sometimes it doesn't work because according to Microsoft, security defaults will only require MFA when needed. Unlike conditional access and per user, which requires MFA every time they log in from a new device or an untrusted device. With security defaults, it might not require for MFA. It's pretty complicated, but according to Microsoft, it's their way of making sure that every new tenant has MFA. So again, these are the three main options for Microsoft customers to enable MFA. I'd strongly suggest check out conditional access because there's so many things you can do with it, especially with your journey to zero trust. Because with zero trust, it's all about policies, it's all about controls. So conditional access is not just for MFA, it can be for other things as well. And for it, in our next slide, I'm going to show you why we need to deploy MFA. So if you're looking at the screenshot on the right, you'll see there's a log, sign-in logs from an account called admin. This was just taken a few days ago. If you notice, there's a lot of failed login attempts coming from everywhere. So every second, there's a login attempt. This is what we call like a brute force attempt, which means that the bad guys will keep trying every password combination in order to break into an account. So the logins are failing, but at the same time, what could happen if they successfully guess the password? Then they can take over the account and then perform any and impersonate the user or the person, because without MFA, they just have the password, then they will have access to it. So, but with MFA, at least even if they steal the password, if they don't have the device that is enrolled to the account, then at least they will be prevented from logging in. And at the same time, if you have conditional access and you have a policy that denies login from these countries, then even if they guess the password correctly, conditional access will still deny login. But again, the idea is to make sure that each account that you have has MFA, at least this protection from this kind of attempts, because accounts like this, like an admin account, is very valuable, and it can be used by threat actors to gain access to a Microsoft tenant. So on our next slide, we're going to move on to securing our endpoints. So with zero trust, it's important that we should also harden or tighten up the security of our workstations or our mobile devices or just in our endpoints in general. So with Microsoft, there's a product called Intune. It's their device management platform. Because with Intune, you'll be able to use policies to push for configuration profiles. If you look at the screenshot on the right, it's just some of the profiles or settings that you can configure if a device is enrolled in Intune. So you can block access for removable storage. That means that the device can't use USB flash drives, or you can also use the policy to prevent factory reset of the device, because if the device gets stolen, and at least there's an Intune policy to prevent it from being factory reset. And you can even block cameras. If you don't want the device to use their cameras, then at least you can use Intune for that. It's just about hardening or securing your endpoints and making sure that only the necessary components are enabled. And with Intune, you can also use it to deploy compliance policies. Compliance policies can be Windows update policy, meaning that the device needs to be updated or at least has the latest updates from Microsoft before it's compliant. Because if it's not compliant and you have a conditional access policy, then you can deny login coming from that device. And you can also use Intune to onboard your devices to Defender. Defender is Microsoft's antivirus product, and we're gonna go on to that on our next slide. But again, with Intune, it's necessary in your zero trust journey, and just keep in mind that Intune is at the moment it's more suited for Windows devices. So if your Windows environment Intune is really for you. But also keep in mind the required license to enroll these devices. But again, that's Intune is right here to manage your endpoints and make sure that the necessary security policies are pushed or implemented in them. So, next slide is our threat protection. Of course, with Zero Trust, we need to make sure that we have a pretty good antivirus product, or at least an endpoint security. And with Microsoft, there's Defender for Business. As we know, Windows Defender comes built in with Windows 10 or Windows 11 computers, but Defender for Business adds more features in it. So Defender for Business lets you add like rules like attack surface reduction. So attack surface reduction are rules that can prevent the installation of untrusted software or from scripts into running into a system, because we know if a system is infected, threat actors will try to run these scripts in order to move laterally into the network. So Defender for Business has that feature, and it also has vulnerability management. And when we say vulnerability management, it's about discovering the weakness in the network or in the endpoint. Like on the right side, you'll see a screenshot of Defender's vulnerability management feature. You'll see there the severity of the vulnerability found on the system. So this helps IT teams or security teams patch or fix the vulnerabilities before the bad guys can exploit them, because the bad guys are always looking for weaknesses and loopholes that they can exploit in order to penetrate a network. So with Defender for Business, organizations can have an overview of the critical vulnerabilities they have and give them time to patch or remediate those vulnerabilities. Another feature of Defender for Business is that it has an ability to block malicious websites from being visited, or it has a web control. Like, let's say we want to block gambling or adult websites on a computer. It might work if you're in the office and you have a firewall, but what happens if that computer gets out of your office network? So with Defender for Business, it will still work. It will still apply the protection, even if they're outside the firewall, even if they're outside your corporate firewall. So it's a neat feature. It's just it's more on preventing the users from accessing phishing websites or malicious websites that host infected downloads. So it's a feature that's also baked into Defender for Business. And it also supports Windows, Windows 10, Windows 11, server operating systems. It has support for Mac, for iOS and Android and Linux. I would say with iOS and Android, having an antivirus might be optional, but it's always nice to have. And Defender for Business is a good solution if you're looking into one. And it has integration with endpoint data loss prevention. So meaning that you can control what kind of sensitive data can be stored on the system, or at least be communicated from that computer. So if you have endpoint data loss, you can have a policy that prevents your employees from sending sensitive data in plain text or using copy and paste and pasting it into their browser. So, but with endpoint data loss, it requires E5, or just basically one of the most expensive licenses at Microsoft. But if you just want to start with Defender for Business, the one bundled with Business Premium or the add-on is should have almost all the features that you need to protect your endpoints. Again, Defender for Business is an enterprise-grade antivirus solution. I would highly suggest consider using it. If you're still paying for a third-party antivirus, check out Defender for Business. Next slide, please. Of course, with Zero Trust, we need to secure our data as well. And we need to have policies to prevent them from being exposed or being sent over in plain text or being shared into external organizations without appropriate protection. So with Microsoft, there's Microsoft Purview. And there's the data loss prevention policies that you can use for Exchange, for your emails, for SharePoint or Teams. And you can just create like a policy to automatically apply encryption or just to block access in general. And there are pre-built templates. On the right side, you'll see a template that's designed for personal health information for Manitoba. And that comes with the templates in Microsoft. So you'll see on the right, there's a template to block sharing SIN numbers, health numbers, or health information numbers. So you can use that as your baseline or as a policy to start your data loss prevention. And it can be applied to your Exchange, like what I've said earlier. So what happens if you have a data loss prevention policy? Let's say someone is emailing another person from outside the company with an attachment that has like a SIN number. So with data loss prevention, if you set it to block, then the message will bounce and the sender will receive an update that they're trying to send a sensitive info. Or you can also set your policy to automatically encrypt the document or the email itself. So meaning that the policy will encrypt the message and the recipient will be the only one to open it, because encryption is a protection that prevents accidental sharing of sensitive info to other parties. And if you want to comply, or if you need to comply with certain regulatory boards that needs encryption, you can use data loss prevention in order to automatically secure your emails or your files that is shared outside your organization. Because with zero trust, we can't just rely on our users to ensure protection with the sensitive data that they handle. So with DLP, or data loss prevention, it's a policy that can automatically look for the sensitive data and prevent them from being shared without the necessary permission or necessary encryption or restriction. And this also requires additional license to implement. So basically all the samples that I've talked about requires a common license, is a business premium license. If your organization already has business premium, all these features should be available. Or if you don't have business premium, they can be add-on individually through add-ons. But the most, I think the value added license will be business premium, because it all has the security features that you need in your zero trust journey. And again, zero trust is not a single product. It's not a solution, like a single solution. It's not just from a single vendor. It's a journey. It helps organizations align their business needs to their security goals. It is designed to adapt. It's a continuous process. It's not just a one-time thing. It's not a thing that you can implement in one day. It's just a step. The things we covered today is just a step forward to it. And as you go on to your zero trust journey, you'll reach maturity levels. And as you implement more controls, more policies, then you can ensure that your organization will be as strong as ever, or at least with the security posture will be as strong as ever. And just it's not a complicated thing to implement. If you have a Microsoft, like a license with business premium, you can go ahead and start with the policies that we covered. And if you want to take it to the next level, Microsoft has other licenses or other features, but again, that requires additional license. But that's pretty more advanced for, and you need to, because you need to take a step first before you jump on to those complex, or at least the more advanced like policies for zero trust. Okay, Ryan?
All right, thank you so much, Nino. I'm gonna get back here on camera. There we go. Just to sort of wrap things up, I know we're right at time, so appreciate your attention and patience through the hour here. Again, as Nino is mentioning, steps, or taking steps towards that future. We've actually built out this approach right across Clear Concepts, and again, why we make such a great partner in this moment is we've got capabilities around getting customers and getting our partners to the cloud first, data, infrastructure, and apps, obviously into the cloud. Everything Nino's just covered and more across zero trust security, whether it's MFA, endpoint protection and data loss prevention, through to our modern work offerings, which is really focused on Microsoft 365, as well as Teams, automation, data plays into that section as well. And again, our newest sort of entrant or service area offering being around AI, Copilot 101 training, AI consulting up and through to more advanced, again, customized for your business needs, custom AI and machine learning solutions. And that's going to do it for us today. On behalf of the whole team here at Clear Concepts, thank you so much for the time. And again, thank you to everyone at Supply Chain Manitoba for being our hosts.
Thank you so much. So we do still have a question. Oh, one question here. I think this question from Camille is for Nino. Can we use the Microsoft Intune to block spam mails?
You won't use Intune, but you're going to use Defender to block spam emails. It's a policy that you can deploy, and it can block impersonation, phishing attempts like malicious or unsafe attachments or unsafe links. It's part of the business premium, and it's also part of the Defender for Office 365 license. So yeah, you can use it to block spam emails.
Okay, thank you. So we also have a couple more questions already answered. So I'm just going to read it for the benefit of all the other attendants. Is Copilot Mobile enabled and available for Apple products? Some people at my organization use MacBook. So Kyle was saying that absolutely, there is a Copilot Mobile application for iOS. You can also access it using any web browser from any device by navigating to copilot.microsoft.com. And the second question is, can Copilot connect with meetings on Zoom? So Kyle already answered in saying that I believe Zoom has/is working towards their own AI meeting recap functionality. Having said that, you could take the Zoom meeting transcript, copy it within your prompt in MS Copilot and ask for a summary as a workaround. And the third question is, can Copilot be connected with Power BI and Dynamic Business Central, as these are all Microsoft products? Carl was answering, Copilot for Power BI/Fabric is currently available and is a separate product from Microsoft Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot. For example, what Ryan has covered today. While we don't work directly with Dynamics here at Clear Concept, it does appear that there is a Copilot experience embedded there as well. Okay, so that's all for the question and answer today. Okay.
Right on.
Yep. Thank you so much for Nino, Ryan, Kyle, Katie, the Clear Concept team. We do learn a lot, not only from yesterday, but today, especially Nino touched on the cybersecurity. It is so important for the organization to update their security, number one. Number two is it's good to know that Microsoft have so many different products that we can actually use to defend ourselves from all the threats that's happening. Like it is so amazing that when we talk about the World Wide Web, the criminal is evolving as well. So we ourselves have to evolve. So, okay.
Thank you, everyone. And if you want to review it, these two webinars, both on the individual and the corporate side, will be posted to our website. And if you have any questions, by all means, Katie will be more than happy to answer them. So everyone have an amazing afternoon, evening. If you're rolling around into the morning, enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.